To be a good political analyst, no detail is too small. Yeah, it's good to follow up on every small detail because in this political season, you should understand one thing. Nothing is done without a reason. If you see a political party making a certain move, if you see a politician making a certain move, he has an objective in mind. Yeah, this is not the season just to do things for the sake of doing them. This is not the season, definitely. Now, in recent days and weeks, actually in recent weeks, we have seen the Jubilee Party do a complete about turn. You'll remember when URP merged with the Jubilee Party to form Jubilee, the whole idea was to bring all the small parties into one fold so that it could be one political party without being a coalition of sorts. Yeah. The whole idea was for the president and his deputy to swallow all the small parties surrounding them to form one political party. Now, there's a lot of logic and reasoning behind this. One of the most important being that when you don't have fractured small parties which are somehow associated with you, it is easier to control. And even when you go to things like primaries, the issues of jumping from the party after the nominations becomes not possible. Okay, it becomes a non-issue. It is a way of reducing the division, or rather, the way I see it, it was a way of reducing the sharp division, not sharp division, the sharp demarcation between the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin, so that it would all be one party, one political party together called Jubilee. Yeah, it was a good idea on the drawing boards, but it turned out to be a nightmare in reality. First of all, the duo, the president and his deputy, had a big problem convincing many small parties to join the fold. They had a very hard time. There was a lot of wheeling and dealing to get that done. Well, finally it was done, and we had the Jubilee Party. But even then, more nightmares were to follow, which we have seen unfold, and we have also seen, as a result of it, parties which would have otherwise been obscure, like Maendeleo Chap, Alfred Mutua's Maendeleo Chap, have suddenly become very strong parties with very strong candidates. Because a lot of the people who defected from Jubilee and went to these parties are generally very, very strong candidates. In fact, if you look at the profile of Maendeleo Chap right now, it's definitely a party to watch, as I've said in an earlier recording. Now, recently, Jubilee has had a complete turnaround, about turn. And what has happened is that now the president is embracing every small party that is supporting his re-election. Okay, this is the right thing to do. It's the right politics to play right now. But I want us to analyze what led to this about turn. Okay. Now, if you have been very observant and if you have been listening to my recordings, you will notice that I've mentioned twice or thrice the fact that whoever is running the show in Jubilee has made very many mistakes. And I hope they're not too many. Yeah? Because definitely already their moves have impacted on the electorate. Their moves have weakened the party. Their moves have definitely reduced the votes of the president. That is so important that I need to repeat it. The blunders and the moves somebody within Jubilee has done are so many, yeah, and they've been so frequent that they've definitely reduced the president's votes going into the 2017 election. Now, I can tell you one thing for sure. Deputy President Ruto was not involved in the decision making, yeah, because this man, hate him or like him or whatever, is a very crafty political player, yeah, and he would know the right thing to do at the right time. This was somebody who was put in power within Jubilee to make decisions, who does not have the necessary experience and does not have the necessary instincts, yeah, which are required at that high level to be able to make the right call every time. And if in the end, on August 8th, Jubilee loses these elections, then they have nobody else to blame but that person within themselves. Yeah, actually they have nobody else to blame except themselves to allow such an inexperienced political amateur, yeah, to operate at such a high level and to make decisions which at the end of the day hurt the party. And I'm sure the staunch supporters of Jubilee who don't operate on emotion but operate on reality will agree with me. Now take for instance this issue of Nairobi primaries, whereby there was a decision made to shut out Honorable Sonko. Okay? Now that was a very, very, very big blunder, very costly to the party. And I'll tell you why. Because Sonko is such a popular character, such a popular politician, whatever you think of him, yeah, he's not polished, whatever. But because of his popularity on the ground, they allowed Sonko to create the narrative for Jubilee. Yeah? Because when he was locked out, what was he going around saying? Oh, unajua kuna watu wa kabila ndani, kuna watu wa kuna ukabila, there are people who have a lot of tribalism, there are people who are against me because of tribe. I have many supporters from all tribes across the board. Now, that kind of rhetoric, what message does it send forth? That Jubilee is a tribal party. Yeah? So that was a big blunder. Blunder number 2 also associated with Sonko. They came out and publicly said we are emphasizing a lot on academic qualifications. You'll remember what happened. They asked Sonko to produce some certain documents, and everybody knows it was well publicized that Sonko actually went to university and qualified and was given a degree. Yeah, the issue of whether he was qualified or not to actually attend the university because maybe performed very poorly and maybe didn't get a diploma, bridging diploma to be able to be viable for a degree, is a non-issue here, because we are talking about politics at a high level. Yeah, and if somebody was so keen on academic qualifications, there are quiet ways of doing this. They would have done this quietly within the party without making it public. Now, the impact of making it public, you realize that the majority of voters are poor, ordinary people. Most of these ordinary people are not well educated. Yeah, and they're not well educated in most cases because of no fault of their own. Their parents are not able to afford to take them to school. Their parents are not able to afford to take them up to a certain level. I personally know very many families whereby the family had to sell valuable family land just to take the children through secondary school. We're not even talking about university. Yeah. So when you bring such an emotive issue, yeah, and you start emphasizing on it, what effect does it have on the voters towards your party? Gosh, what were these people thinking? Yes, it is possible to have such strong support. It's possible to be so sure of your support base that you believe that you can play around. Ho, 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 ho. My friends, that does not happen in politics. Yeah? In politics, mistakes are inevitable, but you try to avoid them at all costs. But when you blindly walk into a mistake, you blindly walk into blunders, my friend, you're asking for serious trouble. Now, from my latest survey on the ground, I can tell you one thing. The impact of these Jubilee blunders, especially this thing of asking for academic qualifications, has had a huge, huge impact on the ground amongst voters. Yeah, the feeling amongst many voters in Nairobi is they felt alienated. They felt that we have a government which has a class system. Yeah, 2 classes: the classes of the educated and the classes of the uneducated. Now, the way it is in Kenya is that the rich and the privileged, education is not a problem. They're able to get these papers and so on and so forth, yeah? But then the less privileged and the poor are unable to get these papers. Therefore, this is not my opinion. Let's be very careful about this. This is not my opinion. This is the opinion of the voters, some of the voters that Jubilee are counting on to vote for them in August 8th. Yeah? That is how serious this issue is. So they feel that this is a party of class. This is a party which divides people along class lines. Now, I cannot be able, I'm not a magician. I cannot be able to analyze the full impact that will have in the elections. But every politician knows every vote counts. And I can tell you for a fact their votes lost there. Their votes lost. Now, I'm not a Jubilee supporter, but I get upset when such primary school, kindergarten mistakes are made when we have such an important election before us. Okay? Now, I know NASA supporters will be very happy, but this is not an issue of making you happy. This is an issue of analyzing, going forward. It's good to also look back and learn from lessons. Yeah? And you see also definitely there was a problem within Jubilee, because you will also remember that the defection started long before the primaries. Especially in the Embu, Meru area, the defection started very, very early. So, politicians are the first to sense this. They sensed that what was happening within the Jubilee fold was not conducive to them going through the primaries comfortably. And therefore, they defected en masse. Many of them ended up at parties like Maendeleo Chap Chap and other parties, PNU and so on and so forth. A lot of them defected. Yeah? And this is very sad. This is extremely sad, because when you win a political contest, this political contest was won through the hard work of one William Ruto, and of course the President Uhuru Kenyatta and their team. But it seems the team which won that election in 2013 was shoved aside, and other people came in. It's like you create a big business. The business is very successful. Then other jokers come in to mess up things. This is how I read the situation within Jubilee. And I hope that it is not too late, but I fear it may be too late for Jubilee, because some of these blunders are irreversible, like the one I told you about, the education thing, which has alienated a lot of voters on the ground who feel left out of the situation. Of course, they'll still get their votes from the die-hard Jubilee supporters in the rural areas, especially in central Kenya, Waiguru's constituency there, Gishugu, that area, central Kenya, Kirinyaga. That's why I was looking for Kirinyaga. Kirinyaga, Kiambu, they'll of course get their votes there. But other key areas, very, very key areas like Nairobi, other centers, other commercial centers, towns, where people are a bit more informed, people are a bit more aware, there are going to be problems. I can foresee that. There are going to be serious, serious problems. And, it is okay for you to have problems because maybe your policy is not good, you're not telling people the right thing. That is okay. But to have problems because of a silly, silly mistake made by jokers who you have put in charge in your party, who have made decisions which are not, which would make anybody, the most kindergarten, simple person who does not even understand politics wonder what you're up to. That is inexcusable. That is inexcusable. Anyway, those are the blunders that have now forced us into this situation where Jubilee is doing a very clear about turn and inviting every small political party into every small political party to the fold. This of course presents other problems, quite serious problems, which will bring confusion when it actually comes to the actual campaigning and then the elections. Because, for instance, let me just give you one example. You have a constituency whereby you have a Jubilee candidate, and then you have 3 or 4 other political parties which are supporting the president, but they're different political parties, and then there's competition on the ground. Now, the president or his deputy visits the place, and what is he going to tell the people? Vote Jubilee? If he says vote Jubilee, what will the other non-Jubilee candidates who are supporting the president feel? You see what I'm talking about? Yeah. Let's hope that some emergency measures can be taken to be able to correct this situation within Jubilee. It would be a shame if the situation is left to remain the same. It would be a huge shame if that joker, whoever they are, is left to run the show, because obviously they don't have an inkling of what politics is all about. Because I even have a friend who's a Jubilee supporter, and he has really been talking very angrily. He's telling me, look, Chris, you'd better talk to people about this one. And I told him, okay, fine, I will. And, I looked closer at the issue, and I totally agree with him. Yeah, this did not come from any NASA person. This has come from a Jubilee supporter. Yeah, so this is something the party needs to look at. needs to know that they have a lot of supporters out there relying on the party, and it would be a total shame to let down your supporters. Thank you very much for your time. This is Chris Kumekucha.